jet flying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these alligators.
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, willing dealing, limo jet flying. We Rick flaring on us, flaring on us. We Rick flaring on us. You talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, willing dealing, limo jet flying. We Rick flaring on us, flaring on us. We Rick flaring on us, flaring on us. It's apparent these girls staring. I'm Rick flaring, gold across my chest. I'm fresh to death, I'm Paul Bearing, not at all scary. When I open like Betty Wops and find to these circles that's going in like a carry shot. Woo! I'm going in like a Mary Pop off that Mary Crop at the top flow at the Marriott. So questioning me is like questioning you. See, we the best dressed, so come and get blessed with the crew. Not one but two, different ways to slaughter your crew. Committed tat across the chest, I guess she blessed with the truth. People want to see them checks, representation of proof. Living through my elders trying to resonate to the youth. But ain't nothing to get my flash on. Longevity is heavily embedded in my melanin. Layman terms, I last long. My grind repetitive, I'm smoother than real silk. Lyrical cash cow who can't cry over spilled milk. We in here. You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, willing dealing, limo jet flying. We Rick flaring on us, flaring on us. We Rick flaring on us. You talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, willing dealing, limo jet flying. We Rick flaring on us, flaring on us. We Rick flaring on us, flaring on us. This ain't no normal situation, this preparation with greatness. Industry full of fakeness, it's really up for the taking. See, life is what happened to you, more so how you take it. Don't get stripped of your knowledge and mentally leave you naked. I like to live otherwise. I'm sorry that I'm fresh to death. I put the polo and apologize. See, black son, we ain't nothing like the mother guys. Quit to socialize, we organize, then we mobilize. Off the deep end like a scuba diver. And no confusion, just keep it pushing like Uber drivers. Woo! Business fresh just like a supervisor in a Gucci visor. Can't find a smoother rhymer. You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, willing dealing, limo jet flying. We Rick flaring on us, flaring on us. We Rick flaring on us. You talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, willing dealing, limo jet flying. We Rick flaring on us, flaring on us. We Rick flaring on us, flaring on us.
Yeah, DQ baby. Shout out that boy Nigga for that fire track. Hey, Black Sun, sun up. What's up, Vinny Vegas? What in Vegas? Yeah. Shout out Pharaoh's Kids, D-Phase, yeah, Bubba C, yeah, Rick flaring on them, Rick flaring on them, Rick flaring on them, Rick flaring, sun up, baby.
Hey, yo, Scotty, you going crazy for this one. We see what you're doing, we salute you. Hey, let's get it started. It's Backpack Capital One. What's in your wallet? Got a call from my man A. Scott. I said I got it. Love that you highlighting all of these black colleges. Try to pay me for doing this. Look, bruh, if you don't get off my line with that foolishness, voice of the swag, pull up where you at, no cap. If the Brody is speaking the soft facts, my advice, tune in to every show. Captain Petty, but we know that the sergeant is with the smoke. Speculate, just tell me what is we doing. Get into it, okay, look, I'ma say this and keep it moving. My boy Scotty, man, he offered the least. Black grad, paying college, I'm glad that he called me. Walk it, cause we all been taught that talk is cheap. Even primetime knows Scott for the HBCU streets.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy back again. Happy Monday for all. Listen, there's no better way to end your Monday than to be here live in full effect with the NFL Draft Secrets with Coach Hue Jackson. Before we get into it and I bring up the coach, hey, go ahead and like the stream. Stop playing with me. Okay, stop playing with me. Go ahead and do what you do. Just because Hue Jackson here, the rules don't change. Okay, like the stream. All right, that's what you're supposed to do, and subscribe if you're new here. All right, but listen, You've already know what transpired this last weekend. Coach Hue Jackson has been through that process time and time again. So there is no better person that can talk about it other than Coach Hue Jackson of the Grambling State Tigers.
What's going on, baby?
What's good, Coach? How you doing?
No, I'm doing great. It's a great Monday evening. Obviously, you said what a tremendous draft. You know, just watching the whole process. Had some players that I knew personally get drafted. So happy and excited for their families. Watching teams get better and grow, and disappointed for some players at the same time. But also know that, boy, I hope the players know that you just got to get an opportunity. You got to get a foot in the door, and if you get in the door, then you got to make sure you close it behind you and make sure you finish it off.
You know what? Before we jump into the draft, I know a lot of people are seeing undrafted free agent signings, undrafted. What does that really mean? Because you have mini camp invites, and then you have undrafted free agent types, and then you have some with money, some with no money. So just walk us through a little bit of that people who've seen their player, like their favorite player, get undrafted free agent signing. What does that look like?
So what that looks like is any young college athlete who's a draftable athlete that doesn't get picked in the draft, they are then considered undrafted free agents. Mm-hmm. So you can then put them on your team a couple of different ways. And you just mentioned it. You can pay them and ask them to come on your team. That's the best way to secure that you get the services of the player. You can give an invite to a player, and then the player and his agent will probably look and say, well, maybe there's too many players at that position. I won't have a good chance of sticking on that football team. And so it's kind of a cat and mouse game for most athletes at that time. And I get it. But again, as I said, you know, things happen for a lot of different reasons. I've seen guys that have been paid a lot of money, not make a team. I've seen guys that have been paid no money, make a football team and play in the National Football League for a long time. So there's all kind of ways for it to happen. It is no just one size fit all. Obviously, you get drafted high in the National Football League, you got a chance to make it. Absolutely. But if you don't, it don't mean that your dream is over. There's obviously it's a National Football League, and there's all these other leagues that are playing as well. And I get it. They're not the National Football League, but guys are so passionate about playing football. There are other opportunities for you to play.
Let me ask you this, Coach. Like I said before we get into the draft, you've been a head ball coach. How would you tell a kid coming from an HBCU, coming from an FCS school, lower level, that has an undrafted free agent, what would be your number one goal or key? Like, hey, listen, I've been doing this a long time. I done see a lot of good ball players. I've seen a lot of undrafted free agents come in. What would be your one key? Like, hey, make sure you do this or you're doing this to make sure you can make that team.
Well, I think the most important thing is you got to put yourself in position to be seen, right? So if you're not the top 7 draft picks that most teams have, and here you are going in as an undrafted free agent, if you're going to be the number 12 linebacker, you're probably not going to get to play much. You're probably not going to even get to practice much. So there's not probably a good chance for you to showcase your talent and ability. They have to see something in you that you demonstrate in practice or on game day, you know, in the preseason games. That's why they have them. As a matter of fact, they're cutting those back even more now. Yeah. So they got to be able to display something that's going to make them say, we're going to keep you, because there's 3 different cuts, right, before the final roster. And so it's so important to be somewhere where you want it, where you're going to get that opportunity, and where you know you're going to get good coaching. Because if maybe you're just learning something away from really busting through, right? Yeah. And so you got to put yourself in the best position for you. If a guy is going to chase the money, I would tell him, don't chase the money. It's not about the money. It's about the longevity. You know, where can I go where I can get there and stick? And if that happens, then good things happen.
I like that. Listen, guys, if you out there, listen, the head ball coach, he been there, done that. Okay, been there, done that. Now let's get into this draft. What were your overall thoughts on the draft? You had Deion come out and said he was disappointed in the 31 teams that did not draft an HBCU player or FCS player. You have a program like the Patriots that I believe drafted 3 FCS players, including Isaiah Bowden from HBCU. But overall, Coach, what were your thoughts when you saw it coming down on that last the third day, and it just was a run of Power 5 players and Group of 5?
Well, I felt the same way Deion did. I'm not going to run from that. I think any coach in our conference, and I'm not speaking for them and I'm not speaking for Deion, we all have good players that we think are quality enough players that should have a chance to play in the league, right? And our biggest issue is, and I'll be the first to tell you, I see the National Football League trying to do more.
Okay.
They're not trying to do more. When I walk back through my experience, you know, in order to do better, you got to know better, right? So when I was a head coach at Oakland, I didn't know much about the HBCU space. When I was the head coach at Cleveland, I didn't know much about it. And people say, well, Hugh, how would you not know? I'm talking about the players, because the players, it's like anything. People are taking name brand players, right? And so somebody said it the other day, you're not on TV a lot. You don't get seen a lot, you know, in the big markets. So people go, well, who is so-and-so, so-and-so?
Yeah.
So I felt for Dion's players too, because I competed against them. And having drafted players at the highest level, he had players on that team that I thought were worthy of playing in the National Football League. And my concern is I have players coming up this year who I think of worthy. When I think of Sandiana Anderson, he's going to be one of the best defensive ends in the country, in my opinion, because that's what we're trying to get him to.
Absolutely.
And everything we do is to put him in position so he has a chance. So my disappointment is not that, okay, there was one. Yeah, my disappointment is there was one player drafted. I wish there was more than 4 as there was last year. And where they came from wouldn't have mattered to me, because we competed against all these coaches and all these teams. And every team we competed against, there was some player there that could have played at the Power 5 school and just been on the other side, and you wouldn't have known the difference.
Absolutely.
So that's where I get disappointed at. And all I think the players, and I'm not trying to speak for the HBCU players, I think all they're saying is evaluate me at the same strength, with the same data, with the same analytics that you do those guys with. And if my numbers are close, and if my numbers are the same, okay, give me my just due of looking at me and saying if I fit or don't. That's all they want, is an equal chance. The guys that go to Power 5, the guys that go to HBCUs are just a little different, right? Let's just be honest. I mean, it could be this guy didn't flourish until he got to college. He didn't become the player that he's going to become until he got to college. Well, this player did it in high school. This guy was a 5-star. All these stars that people get worried about, which is not how I build a football team. And that's not how the National Football League builds a football team. They build them with players that they see that are going to have transcended talent over time, because they're going to pay them to do a job.
Got you. Let me ask you this, Coach, because Jim Trotter, a very reputable NFL cover, he said he went to talk to some GMs. He says, according to some GMs, teams are going to send scouts, sometimes multiple scouts, to Power 5 schools during the year, sometimes multiple times. But if an FCS player isn't on the prospects list provided by the 2 primary scouting services, teams might not visit that school. If there becomes even more imperative that the pro liaisons for FCS schools to contract with the scouting services to ensure their prospects are listed. My question to you is, who are these scouting services? Because they don't have the luxury of, you know, being in a Power 5 dynamic and program where, you know, maybe your OC knows the scouting services, or maybe, you know, your strength and conditioning coach, he's cool with somebody in the. Who are these scouting services that?
Well, I want you to know that's first I've ever heard of that.
Wow.
So that goes to show you. And again, I wish all of the coaches, somebody enlighten us on who those scouting services are, so that we know who to connect with, so we can put the players on the list. Let me tell you, let's go even deeper. I think sometimes the information that the scouting services get is incorrect too. The one thing I think, you know, at the HBCUs, what a player will do in a minute, he'll change his jersey number. So they were looking for number 22, and this year this guy's wearing number 54. And so this guy is now said to be an outside linebacker, and he's playing safety, right? So we all have to do a better job. And I'm talking about us and our buildings as well. We got to make sure the jersey numbers are right. The guys are playing the positions that it's put on the paper the right way and given to the powers that be. And then you said something else. No, we don't have it like these guys are going to come out to every game we have.
Absolutely.
So let's just be honest. It doesn't work that way. The thing that we have going for us, if we have HBCU League Pass, you get a chance to see us live stream, even if you don't come.
Absolutely.
So somebody might catch your attention where you can see us playing and you continue to dive over into that football player and find out more about him. And yeah, it's a game of exposure. But I go back to what I said earlier. All the players want is a chance. If I'm 6'4" and
Coach Jackson.
and am doing this,
Yeah.
I want
Right, getting a phone call at the same time.
45, and he's the guy that's getting a chance to be drafted.
Yes,
I
sir.
just want to know why I'm not seeing the same, and my numbers are no different than his.
Absolutely. Now let's go a little deeper about this exposure, because a lot of people would say the NFL finds you. If you're that good, that is the, that's the mantra. If you're good, they'll find you. How much is it that scouts are scouting off the helmet and not really doing the due diligence of going down to a Grambling, going down to a FAMU, going down to a South Carolina State, North Carolina Central? Like, where's the disconnect between the scouts, the GMs, and exposure, and how it all triangulates?
Well, I think you have to understand what the scouts' jobs are, first and foremost. They're information gatherers. And then they give information to their bosses.
Okay.
Right? Who then ask the guys that he trusts, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And so normally, if I'm going to compare a player from Penn State to a player that's at FAMU, I'm probably going to look more at the player that's at Penn State because I have more exposure to him than I do at the player at FAMU. To me, that's what makes it wrong. Because you just said it. If we're trying to find the best, and that's why I said you have all this data that you can put in this cooker, right? And say, give me all these guys that are 6'4", 6'5", that run at this speed, that has this kind of body fat, that has this. Where are they?
Wow.
They have those processes that they can do. And so there should be not a reason why we don't find them. But I think what we have to understand, that hasn't been what it's really been about, right? Let's just be honest. And so, but I think they're trying to do better. I'm not coming on here to say the National Football League is doing nothing, because they are. But what we have to understand is it's already separated. And I love the way you keep addressing it. You keep saying FCS. You're not just talking about SWAC.
Yes.
You're talking about it all. It's a problem throughout all of the FCS schools.
Absolutely.
Now, I happen to coach at Grambling. So I'm trying to recruit players that have chances and opportunities to go play at the next level.
Yes, sir.
So there's no question I'm going to be fighting for my guys who I think have the best opportunity to go play on Sundays to get an opportunity, because it's my reputation.
Absolutely.
I can't tell a coach, go look at a player, and then he has no chance whatsoever of playing in the National Football League. There's no way. And we have a couple of guys, like I said, I know next year we'll have guys, and over the next several years, we will have guys who have a chance to go play in that league if they do their due diligence.
I want to dive a little deeper, Coach. You are a quarterback guy. You're an offensive quarterback guy. Why is it so difficult for quarterbacks at the FCS level to get looks at the NFL draft when some of their numbers are outrageous? I'm talking about Cole Kelly throwing for 4,000 to 5,000 yards, Eric Berrier throwing for 4,000 to 5,000 yards, Lindsey Scott throwing for 4,000 to 5,000 yards, and these guys are only getting mini camp invites. If I'm a black quarterback, white quarterback in the FCS and SWAC or MEAC, that it's not a very enticing. It seems better for an offensive lineman, for a DB, a wide receiver, but quarterbacks do not get the same love. Is there a reason for that, in your opinion, of why FCS quarterbacks don't get the same love?
I want to say this first. I think that's changing.
Okay.
The 3 highest paid quarterbacks in the National Football League today are minorities.
That is
The
true.
first 3 drafted quarterbacks in the National Football League this year were minorities. I think that is changing. I think people are now starting to see that these guys can play at a high level. And so, yeah, is there a prototypical guy you look for? But let's go with Bryce Young. He doesn't stack up to all the numbers. The guy's a phenomenal player.
Mhm.
And let's take Richardson. We don't even have to talk about CJ Stroud because he's in the middle there. But Richards is a big guy, right? 6'4", 244 pounds, run 4.4. I mean, so my point is, I think those things have changed now. I think what we need to do is do a great job of coaching
Okay.
these particular players to put them in position that when they're walking to the National Football League opportunities, that they just don't see them as, because in the past, let's just be say what it is, being very transparent. We didn't believe that all these guys knew how to do was other than being a shotgun. Didn't know how to call a play, didn't know how to read a progression, didn't understand what pre-snap was, post-snap was, didn't understand what coverages was and how to attack a coverage, how do you game plan, how do you do anything? So, and there's been some quarterbacks like that, let's just be honest.
Yeah.
And they get chances and it make it worse for the next guy. So we have to do a great job of coaching that position at a high level.
I like that. I like that. Now, let's take you back to your old days. You know what I'm saying? When you was in the war room, right?
Mhm.
What is the process of building a draft board, right? Because I keep trying to explain to people in there. I'm like, listen, this is just my opinion, coach, that GMs would rather take a flyer on a Power 5 guy than an FCS guy because that's easier to explain. If a guy from Texas flames out, I missed him. But if you take a guy from Grambling over a guy from Texas and that guy from Grambling flames out, it's harder to explain. So the process of building a draft board, what does that look like? How much time and effort does that take? And how much is it like, hey, this FCS guy, maybe we can fit him in here or get him in here? How does that all go down?
You almost nailed it. I mean, you said it best, but at the end of the day, an organization's job is to win.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're trying to win. They're trying to win the press conference. They're trying to win fans. They're trying to put people in seat. I mean, it all fits in together, right? So you got to go get the best players. And you want players, I said it kind of earlier, that are name brand players, because name brand players are going to put more people in the seats. So when you look at it, here's a guy that's from, as you mentioned, let's just say University of Miami, as opposed to Grambling. I'm going to take the guy from University of Miami because he was seen on Saturday Night Football 5 different times.
Yeah.
Out of billions of people, and people are going to resonate with that name than they are with some guy from Grambling. But that's what we at the SWAC level have to change. We got to be more intentional of putting our players' names out there and letting it be seen and highlighting and showcasing these guys' ability.
The thing that keeps coming back up, and it's like it's subtly rising, is exposure. You keep saying it without saying it, but you're saying it.
Well, let's say this. At the end of the day, because here it is. I mean, like I said, we have the HBCU Combine, who I think they do a great job. We have the Legacy Bowl game, which I think they do a great job. But we're separate. Let's not be separate, right? Let's integrate. Let's integrate. They have a combine, we have a combine, right? And we're not even talking about an FCS combine. We have a SWAC combine. Well, why not take the top 300 players from FCS schools like you do from the Power 5 schools, and let them have the same competition as you have in Indy?
Exactly.
And you don't even have to do it for a whole day. You can say SWAC's on this day, the other FCS school conferences are on this day, this one's on this day. The first 3 days at the combine, all that is about meeting with agents, having conversations, and doing different things. The real combine don't start till later in the week. Mm-hmm. So if it's really about finding the best players, interviewing these guys, knowing who they are, there's enough time to get that done.
Let me ask you this, Coach, because, a lot of HBCU alums that are on this, they probably don't want to hear integration, right? They're like, integration. But to me, I think if the FCS wins, like if you look at it in the totality, if if you believe that there's talent in FCS football, then that gives everyone an opportunity to get drafted. Because you see, you're like, hey, let's go find talent in FCS, than just saying, hey, why aren't you coming for an HBCU?
Yeah, well, it goes back to what you said earlier, right? You said it best. You go, they are searching for the best talent. They're unturning every rock, looking under every piece of clothing, everywhere in the country, looking for the best player they can find. Is that really true? The only way you can do that is show me that is true. Show me that that's what you're doing. By let's integrate this thing. I'm not saying have our time the same times as the Power 5 schools.
Yeah.
If the SWAC, FCS, whatever you want to look at it, is the first 3 days, and here comes the Power 5 schools. After that, then here comes all this data, and everybody's watching this stuff on ESPN.
Yeah.
And the young kid that's from FAMU that plays receiver that got signed as a free agent to the Rams, well, I think Steve Smith all over again. And here he is having to wait because I think he's that talented. There's no way that would happen because he would be in the top performers that you show that gets talked about on ESPN, that gets talked about in the USA Today, that gets talked about over all these platforms.
I love that, Coach. And I've been saying that because I think the HBCU combine is, I agree with you. I do think it's a great, but there's nothing like, I feel like where the HBCU combine drops the ball, I won't say, just drops the ball, is that the highlight events that everybody watches the NFL combine for is not broadcasted, right? So you don't get that same high level of emotion when you see a kid run a 4.33 because you don't hear about it unless they tweet about it or things like that. But when you're watching the NFL combine and a kid from a no-name Power 5 or, a kid you have never heard, he's probably from Mizzou, gets there, runs a 4.4, and you're like, whoa. And then everybody's talking about it. To me, they're just, like you said, it's just something about that.
Yeah. And you're blending them in with the guys from the year before and the year before that, and you're using the historical data to talk about it. It makes a difference. It just makes a difference. And let me back up. I'm going to say it again. I have no problem with what the HBCU Legacy Bowl or the Combine's done because they've given an opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I'm thankful and grateful for that. But how do we do more? How do we, because we want more, we expect more. And so we're pointing at everything, right? And everybody else. I always think there's easy ways to fix things. I really believe that. I think we think things to fix are hard. I don't think things to fix are that hard. Everybody loves football. Everybody loves competitive things. Everybody loves when people are competing. You let those conferences compete. Oh my gosh. You think the eyeballs that are on the combine now, those stands would be full in there with people trying to see the combine.
Yeah.
They'll make so much money and make their heads spin.
Yeah.
Because people want to see that.
And you're adding a whole new fan base, right? Because there's a lot of people that don't watch Power 5 or aren't as highly interested because it doesn't resonate with them. They want to see the onesies and twosies. But if you're talking about a team, I didn't watch the whole season, and now those players are being invited. Now more people are in Indianapolis. You're absolutely, more eyeballs are on the TV screen. So I think it's a win-win overall. Do you think the NFL could implement a bigger combine?
Look, the NFL is always first at a lot of things. They can do anything they want. We all know that. Look, let's just call it like it is. They can do anything they want. But, everybody's been stuck in tradition, right? So sometimes you got to get away from what you've been doing and do what is right? For everybody that's involved. I say that all the time, because people are so stuck in their ways. And so we're just going to keep doing things the same way all the time and hoping to get a different result. Well, that ain't going to change anything, So you got too many smart people in this world that could come together, figure this out, make it worthwhile for everybody, and then make sure that everybody feels included. Because I guarantee you, if a player looked across the running back line and said, man, when I look at this, man, I'm 64th. You know what I'm saying? Boy, but then all of a sudden, the real light comes on in his eyes about what he really needs to do with his life.
How much competition there is.
Absolutely. And you can live with that as a man.
That's good.
right? But when you're not sure and you're going, man, I ran 4.42. He don't know who else out there ran 4.42 other than the people that they talked about.
That's good.
And I'm not even getting a shot.
That's
How
good.
can that be? So it's all these things that we can take all the guesswork out, because there isn't a SWAC school that's not trying to find players that have a chance to play on Sunday.
Absolutely.
There isn't a Power 5 school that's not trying to find players that's not trying to play on Sunday. There's not an FCS program that's not trying to do the same. We're all trying to do the same thing.
I like that. I like that a lot, Coach. That's good. I'm gonna ask you this, a couple more questions, and we'll let you go. Like, how much can HBCUs control this process, right? Like, what can we do? And this is I'm trying to pull away from FCS just a tad bit because we understand the circumstances that surround HBCUs, MEAC, SWAC, and what they're historically have been problems. But what can they control, right? Because you say the nutrition. They say nutrition is a problem. They say rehabbing is a problem at the HBCU level. So what can they control in this process to help garner their players to have a better chance of going to the next level?
So no one's gonna. I think everything you just talked about, but no one on the outside is gonna know about their nutrition problems or their sports medicine problems, right? We have to fix those. That's for us to do. Where we can put our players out there more is in the social media space.
Ooh, that's good.
This time of these platforms of pushing your players, that had to start yesterday, right? Lewis Matthews and freaking Sunday Anderson for me and Lyndon Rash are
right.
players who are real football players.
Yeah.
Okay. Jawan Singletary. Those guys are real football players on our football team. And those guys got real chances. And so we need to start a campaign for those particular players that people are starting to get to know them differently than just as Grambling State University football players who are all SWAC. Mm-hmm. These guys have more to them. They're unbelievable young men. They're good students. They work hard, and they want the same opportunity as those guys at a Power 5. Like I said, what is different than those guys and the other guys? Those guys might have experienced something different in school and chose to go to Grambling instead of going to, let's say, Georgia Tech or somewhere, because maybe it was a major that was at Grambling that wasn't at Georgia Tech. And so you can't penalize a player for that. Now, they just don't have the height, weight, size, speed, and we all know there's outliers out there.
Absolutely.
We all know that. If they don't have the measurables that a team or that a combine or that something's looking for, you can live with that. You can live with that, but you have to put that out there. You have to put it out there.
I'm gonna come back to that, but I want to pivot to something else. You being an offensive-minded guy in the NFL, does the FCS play calling need to upgrade, or do you feel like it's nothing really wrong with it? It's because they always say a college and NFL verbiage is night and day different, but it's just understanding the basis of football and then learning a playbook as you go, or does the FCS, SWAC, MEAC, FCS programs need to elevate play calling and defensive play calling as well?
Absolutely. I mean, look, every coach that is coaching at the FCS level, I'm not going to say that they're all trying to become Power 5 coaches or NFL coaches.
Yeah.
But if you want to coach at the highest level, the verbiage is way different. And so if that's going to be, but I think we all know when you take a quarterback into the National Football League, you try to lessen some of what he has to learn. So you will make changes to fit the talent the best you can. And I would say most coaches say that's what they're doing. But what most coaches are doing is what they've been doing. And it's okay to change a little bit to put your quarterback in position that if he does have a chance to matriculate up there to the highest level, that he's gotten under center, that he's had to check a particular coverage. He's had to check versus a particular dog or blitz. He had to check versus a particular front. For them to be learning that the first time there, I've seen it where it's turned coaches off.
Wow.
And that player didn't even make it just because he didn't have any understanding of that.
Wow. Is there a way to Is there a way to lessen that curve? Because I know it's because you can never, it's like when people say in the military, like you never know until the bullets start really flying and then how you're going to respond. Is there any way to lessen that blow for some of these kids? Because I talk to some of these FCS coaches, they say, Scotty, we just don't have the time to really go in depth like we really want to because of school and tutoring and class and practice. He's like,
it's called coaching. I mean, Mike Tomlin said something on the Pivot podcast one time. He said, "All you're telling me is that your coaching struggling. That's all you're telling me. You got to find different ways to coach these players to give them the best opportunity and to give you the best opportunity."
Yeah.
But like I said, some guys don't have that aspiration, and I get that, and I respect that. Everybody's not meant to go coach in the National Football League. Everybody's not meant to go coach in the Power 5 environment, you know. But if that's what your goals are, if that's what you aspire to do, then you got to go chase that. You got to go learn that at the highest level so that you're able to, as a coordinator, to spit those things out. I've watched guys get tongue-tied trying to call something over the headset to the quarterback.
Wow.
And they couldn't get it out. And so they said, man, I don't want to do this. I mean, that's too much. I don't want to learn how to do that. That's a lot of studying. It's a lot of work that you have to put in.
With your contacts, Coach, because they run deep. I mean, you've been in this game for a long time. How, when you reach out and talk to people that you talk to, how do they view FCS football overall?
I think that what they see is that the resources are not there, but there are some players.
Okay.
They see those players as being guys who are late round draft picks to free agents.
Yeah.
That's where I disagree, because I'm in it now and I've seen it firsthand. And we got guys that have the same burning desire, passion, determination, dedication, and discipline as the guys that are up there, and maybe even better. You know, all they need is that chance, and they don't get it because of the word exposure. They don't get it because of the word resources. And that's where we have to be better. And we will be better. And I think it's getting better. And what we have to do is just turn it up even more and think outside the box. Quit being people that think inside the box.
Yeah.
And say, hey, look, let's just this is the way it's been. Let's keep doing it this way. Let's find different ways to make it happen. Like I said, people always do these studies. They take 3 to 5 years and see, what the data says.
Yes, sir.
Let's just try something different. And 5 years from now, be able to make a decision and say, look, let's go in this direction, or let's keep doing what we're doing.
Absolutely. Let me, listen to the last question, Coach. I'm going to let you go. I know you got a lot of stuff to get done. I really want to focus on this word exposure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's been talked about in so many different avenues. When Deion came down about the exposure, you're here exposure, Eddie George exposure. Where do you see the deficiencies in the exposure? Because I'll tell you some of the things that bother me. The thing that bothers me is trying to cover, and I'm only speaking for the SWAC and MEAC, trying to cover the SWAC and MEAC. It is so hard to get an injury report. It's so hard. I mean, just to say, I can watch a game and try to talk about the game, and I don't even know who might not be playing, because we don't even get the basic necessities of that, or the roster might not be updated.
Right. But let me say this, in fairness to those schools, that's resources. That's not just the school. We have to be able to fund those positions so those things can be taken care of, because you understand how important it is. The school has to understand how fundamentally important it is to the student athlete.
Absolutely.
And his future sometimes. So all those things work hand in hand. And so it all has to work together. And so I just think sometimes if you go back and go through every department, it's not about, boy, we've been doing this the wrong way for the long time. No, that's not what it said. Can we devote some resources over here? And the resource might not be money. Yeah. It just might be people. It just might be people. And so I always believe you go and you win at the things that don't cost you money.
Come on, Coach.
You should be 100% great at the things that cost you no money. Cleanliness, making sure the rosters are right, this is right, that. Those things, to me, that's people related. So we should be able to do those things at a high level, because we can get some people to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that, Coach. Man, Coach Jackson, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being able to come on here and just enlighten people on how this process works, how people from at the top look down, and how we can elevate the where we're at in it and everything like that. I know you got some stuff brewing down there in Grambling.
Yes, sir. Let's go. Let's go, baby.
I saw some big signings, some big
Come
boys.
Come on. Look, I know what it's like standing on the other side and getting your butt kicked. I did that. Okay, we had our fun. I did that. Okay, it's time to move forward.
I like that. I like that. Listen, I know Graham family's excited to see what you're bringing to the table. I'm super excited. I love the spring game. I love what you guys showed and what you guys could possibly be. Any players, because we talking about exposure, any players other than Sandata Anderson, because we all know that monster of a man, anybody that we should be on the lookout for coming up for next season for Grambling?
Oh, Lewis Matthews. Lewis Matthews is a baller.
Okay.
I mean, he is a football player. When I think about Lane Lewis, you know, and Lane Lewis is a football player.
I like it.
When I think about Lyndon Rass, as I mentioned, you know, he's a football player. Juwan Singletary. I mean, I'm happy with where we are. There's some other guys that I don't really want to talk about just yet because they need to continue to do it and go show that they're going to do it at a consistent level to be great in our conference. But we have a chance to be a team to be reckoned with. But we got some work to do.
I like it, Coach. I'm gonna see you at the Bayou Classic. I'm gonna try to get down there.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get down there part 2 because I ain't gonna talk about how y'all should have ran the ball and y'all would have won the game. But we're not gonna talk about that right now.
No, you have every right to say what you feel. I mean, look, you got to own it, right? We got to own it. We lost the game. I mean, I can't look back at it now.
Yeah.
I wish we could say we wish we would have ran it then. It's over with. They won. But them probably ain't gonna be no problems no more. I just want to leave everybody with this because it's on my heart, right? I've got a love affair with the SWAC right now, having been in it, seen our players, watch what these players go through, what it's like for any student athlete trying to become a professional and going to school, trying to be a pro. It's tough. You know, there's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of dedication, a lot of determination you got to have. But I'll say this to everybody. Don't think small. Thinking small could cost you everything. Think big. Think big. Why shouldn't an HBCU player be drafted in the first round of the National Football League draft? It's coming. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. And you got to think big in order for it to happen. So I just think we got to quit thinking small and we got to start thinking big. Because when you think big, a lot of great things can happen. But if you keep thinking small, nothing good's going to come out of it.
I love it, Coach. I absolutely love it. I'm going to end you on that. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you.
Nothing but blessings for your team and for your players. We will see you in the season.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
All right, now take it easy. Hey, listen, that's Coach Hue Jackson from the Grambling State Tigers, man. Listen, I love it. You got to think big. Okay, you got to think big, not small, but big. Absolutely amazing, guys. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and checking out. You already know what it is. Make sure you like the stream. Go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. All right. But listen, until next time, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to holler. God bless.